Doc here for DetroitBeardCollective.com, Detroit's premier grooming company. Visit DetroitBeardCollective.com if your beard is feeling dry, scaly, if you need to maintain your beard. This day and age, there's products out there that helps you take care of your beard. Beard butters will make your beard feel softer, better smelling than ever before. The Doc actually rocked a beard earlier this spring and summer, and I actually used the beard butter. And the first time I ever used a product to take care of my face like that, because, you know, I heard that Adam was into styling, and I'm like, you know what? Let me take care of myself and actually try this stuff out. So I went to DetroitBeardCollective.com and bought the beard butter. My face actually does feel smoother. I definitely checked out the products at the Detroit Beard Collective. They got great t-shirts, oils, the ultra-popular Beard Crate, which is a wide assortment of a bunch of different Detroit Beard Collective products. So definitely support those who support us, DetroitBeardCollective.com.
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody. Often imitated, never duplicated. Thank you for downloading another episode of the Doc and Jock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
What's up, cuz? So we're not going to have a chance to discuss it because this podcast is bursting at the seams here. It's like when you get excited and you're bulging in your pants, right? Just the zipper's about to just shrapnel everywhere. So here's the deal. Big ups to Michigan State. We can now say that they are an elite program. That win right there, I think, cements it. They're an elite program. Big ups to Michigan. Good win. It's a Pac-12 school. I know that they're young. I know that they have a rookie quarterback there. He's first year. And I know that that program in Oregon State's coming along, but you did what you needed to do. You took care of business. You look shaky coming out of the gate, but you took care of business and you handled them. And Jim Harbaugh gets his first win in the big house. So great weekend for both of our schools, both of our programs. Going down the stretch here, it's going to be exciting to see if Michigan State can keep the pressure on Ohio State, and that game is going to set up for one hell of a match. Can't wait.
It was great to see Jim Harbaugh show some emotion on that, failed, was it that running penalty?
Yeah, it was running into the punter when he was outside of the tackle box. Basically, he's a runner. He should be allowed to be lit up, and he got I think it was like a 15-yard penalty, the personal foul.
It was nice to see some emotion. It was nice to see Michigan kind of weather the storm early. They looked a little bit nervous, a little bit flustered, but once the offense got revved up, it was a good performance. And then, of course, Sparty, they handled their business in the primetime game. The best part that I enjoyed was Mark D'Antonio was getting interviewed after the game in all his glory. He sits there, looks into the camera, and is just like, come to Michigan State. That's all he had to do. And really, it was an opportunity for Michigan State to shine all weekend. You had ESPN Game Day there. You had the National Spotlight there. You had recruits, highly touted recruits from basketball and football present. So it was all good. They got to see what Michigan State football is all about. And all credit to Oregon and Michigan State for bucking the system, not taking cupcakes as a schedule, and really allowing the nation to see what these two teams can do to each other and how they can effectively play, offense and defense, and really putting a show on these last 2 years. And they both won at home, and it really cemented both of their seasons now. Michigan State can now really look to week in, week out, improve, solidify some things that they need to, because as we stand now, Michigan State's not at the level of Ohio State. But the best part is we got a long way to go before Ohio State, and it's shaping up to be potentially a 1 versus 2 matchup, both undefeated. It could be a great game, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. It was a good win. Come to Michigan State. Mark D'Antonio's built a solid program. It was all good. It was a great win, and I know it was 3.5 hours long, but it was worth every minute because we won.
I want your take real quick. If Michigan State and Ohio State meet in the regular season, and it's 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3 or even 1 versus 4, if everything stays as is, Michigan State goes into that game, handles their business for the most part, but loses. It's a good game, but they lose by, we'll say, 6. They lose by a touchdown. Do you still believe that they have a shot at becoming a contender for the Final Four to go play in the championship?
Yeah, it really kind of depends on what the teams in the SEC are doing, and it's really debatable.
Dude, the SEC is not looking good this year.
No, it's not. So Michigan State, if they play a decent game and they lose within maybe 7, and it's a tight, solid game, then you can make the argument. But really, we don't want to have to deal with that. We don't want the committee and we don't want the outside forces to affect Michigan State. We want to get in and earn it. We want to have an opportunity to get to the national title game, and it'll be just perfect.
So just take care of your business.
Take care of your business, and we got a lot to improve upon. Ohio State's solid, and they're the true marker. So it's going to be a great way to go. And I'm not overlooking Michigan, because if they continue to improve their run game and their defense and potentially some Harbaugh magic, I'm not thinking it's going to be a cakewalk like it's been in the past. Fully expect them to win, but it's not going to be as easy. Michigan's going to put up a fight.
They look like a different team on Saturday. I know that the opponent that they played, I don't want to say that they were down a few pegs compared to Utah, but they're definitely not as formidable as Utah was. But that being said, the offensive line looked almost revamped. That's what you expected to see that first game. Defensive line looked good. The special teams looked good. As a whole, if you were giving a report card to Michigan that day, they were hitting A's and B's all day long. That first drive came out and they looked bad. But after that, they settled down. That's something they're going to have to work on. They're going to have to work on coming right out of the gate and not being shaky. Their first 2 games, right out of the chute, real shaky, make you kind of hold your breath if you're a Michigan fan. So I look for them to get that stuff corrected. They got a game against UNLV here coming up. I'll be there this weekend. So if you see me drunk and staggering around, just wave and I'll wave at you. And hopefully they sit there and they take care of some business this weekend.
Now, I'm not one to give Michigan credit all the time, but damn, bro. James Earl Jones is dropping promo videos for Michigan now. Did you check it out? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen this one.
You got to see it. It's great. James Earl Jones puts on some cans, steps up to the mic. You start seeing footage of the big house, the history of Michigan. I'm like, damn, bro. And he reached out. Jim Harbaugh reached out to James Earl Jones, Michigan alum, put together a nice video. I think if you check out DetroitSportsNation.com, their website, I think they played it because they had a Facebook post about it. It's a great video, and I'm not one to give Michigan credit, but whenever you got James Earl Jones rapping his voice to anything that you got going on, it's all good. It's a great video.
I'll check it out during one of the breaks here.
All right, we got a Slam Pack podcast. The Tigers just won't go away. They're like this weed that just you put the fertilizer down, you try to kill the weed, and they just pop up. Victor Martinez is spouting off.
More like herpes, but go ahead, whatever.
Like a weed. I know because my front yard is full of them right now. I picked them once, and I got to do it again.
I just want to say like herpes because I know. I mean, no. What?
So Victor Martinez is spouting off. Anibal Sanchez is hurt. Brad Ausmus is getting slammed by the organization. Sources are ripping him left and right. They're talking, they're chirping. And there's talk potentially that Ron Gardenhire is going to be the next manager. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a chance. When I was on WLIP AM 1050, what I like to do is I kind of like to listen to the last segment before I come on. So I turn on the TuneIn radio, and Marques Ogden, former NFL lineman, brother of Jonathan Ogden, was on before me. So I'm sitting and listening to his story, and he's talking about his life in recovery, his life post-football, his new book coming out, and I'm like, wow, what a fascinating character. So he followed me on Twitter after the appearance because the host thanked everybody that came on. So he followed me. So I kind of reached out to him and said, hey, keep up the good work, and it was great to listen to your story. It was a great little segment there, and I enjoyed it. So we're going to have a chance on our podcast to talk to Marques Ogden about his new upcoming book and his primary goal now to change a little bit the image of the NFL, because there's been so many negative stories about the NFL that he's trying to state a case that, hey, I'm a former player, I'm doing good things, I want to be an advocate, and really try to promote positive things in the NFL. So I'm happy with this podcast. We get a chance to reach out and share his story with everybody, with our listeners. And to end the podcast, we definitely got to talk about the epic collapse of our Detroit Lions. We said it going into the game versus San Diego. They needed to play well, both sides of the ball. And they did in the first half.
They looked amazing in the first half.
The PR machine was rolling. Everyone was loving life. And I sent you a tweet, and I knew it. I almost sent out another tweet. I almost sent out a tweet that said, look out, Stafford's going to do something, or something's going to happen on the offense that's going to change the momentum. But I tweeted you right away. I knew 60 minutes, y'all. 60 minutes. I knew right away because I'm scrolling through Twitter, watching the game, and it's like, Abdullah's the next big thing. The Lions are going to be in the playoffs. This is the greatest thing ever. And I knew. I was excited. It was good. A touchdown return on defense. I knew. My little heart knew. I don't know. Maybe I'm starting to become an objective person with the Lions, not so much a fan. But I knew. And I sent out the tweet before the collapse. I said, 60 minutes, y'all. 60 minutes. And it came to fruition. We lost the game. We'll break it down, talk about what the hell happened and what they got to do to beat Minnesota. But let's kick this bad boy off talking about our Detroit Tigers. First and foremost, Victor Martinez and his ability to effectively communicate his thoughts and feelings is just killing me. He comes out and says this year is going to teach the fans a lesson, referencing back to how he felt like the fans weren't supportive when the team came back versus Baltimore down 0-2. The fans have learned a lesson. Yeah, we learned a lesson. You guys suck this year. It's that simple. And the fact is, there were too many games. It's not like if you put forth a great effort, the fans won't come out and support you. If you're a hustling team, you're playing your best and things happen. But the myriad of mistakes, the attitude that these players have kind of come up with, the way Jose Iglesias handled the whole fighting with McCann, just possibly has turned off some of the fans. And you've seen it now in attendance these last few series. It hasn't been good. Why is Victor Martinez coming out here and saying those kind of things? I don't get it. I think he just needs to kind of chill out with the whole talking about the fans and just focus on the fact that his numbers are horrid. And on the Tigers Talk with Churko and Company podcast, we talked about, can Victor Martinez come back and be effective next year? And he said that I got to change up my routine and I got to do better, and I've learned from this season. But I'm totally disappointed. Pretty much the last couple times Victor has talked to us, hasn't been good.
When I was reading this article, I instantly thought, what a dick. I couldn't believe that he said that he was saying this to teach the fans a lesson. What a dick. To teach us a lesson. Are you serious right now, Victor? You show up, you play against a Baltimore squad that you are supposed to beat. And yes, I do believe that Brad Ausmus played a part in you guys losing that series. But you guys blew it. You're players. You're supposed to go out there and play. Some people don't even believe a manager is needed in baseball. If the players are going to sit there and determine the game. I, on the other hand, believe a manager does play a key factor in how these games turn out. And I think Brad Ausmus put you guys in a bad spot. That being said, you were expected to beat Baltimore. You didn't. The fans were upset. Fans have every right to boo. When you're sitting there and you're paying $150 for a seat to watch you guys blow it, and you guys have been essentially crowned for the last 3 years to be World Series champions, come on. What's going on here? Let's be honest. What's really going on here? And I understand that you got a bum knee and you probably rushed it, because when you came back, I said he should probably take a few more weeks off. There's no reason for him to be back right now. So you can't swing from both sides of the plate. You're older, so now your recovery is extended. This is the third surgery you've had on that same knee. At this point, it's bionic. I don't even know if your real knee even exists within there. There's probably just parts and they're gears, and they're all just grinding on each other. So I understand you're frustrated, but don't take your frustration out on the fans. These fans show up every single day for you guys. Every single day. There are supposed to be 30,000 fans that sell that place out every ball game. I know 30,000 aren't there, but there's at least 25 actual people packing that place on a Monday night when it's cold out and it's rainy and it's crappy out to come see you guys implode every single game. You guys are out of these games by the 3rd, 4th, and 5th inning most nights, and people are hanging out till the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning watching you suck it up. So don't come out here and tell me that the people who are essentially paying your salary, are the reason that we can sit there and spend almost $200 million on this ball club. Don't tell me that they need to learn a lesson. That's BS.
And then the news of the week, we're all trying to enjoy opening game of football, and Bernie Smilovitz comes in with a quick hitter. We got breaking news for the Tigers. And we're like, what? Did it happen? Did it go down? What's the breaking news? And he basically kind of parroted news that if you follow Detroit media around, you know that Brad Ausmus is going to be let go. But the news, though, the interesting news is these sources within the organization chirping, going around talking to people that have big followings and saying, hey, at the end of the season, Brad Ausmus is going to be gone. The Illich organization has been totally unimpressed with Brad Ausmus. And the fact of the matter is, they have basically, the Tigers organization has kind of shifted a little bit in terms of their PR stance and kind of they took a hit. Everyone that's kind of looked at it, in my opinion, why would you do that to Brad Ausmus? At least have some decorum, have some respect. You're going around basically trashing your current manager. That puts him in an awkward spot, not only now, but should he go to another organization, how are you going to respect a guy that is being talked about like that? And just put him in a bad spot. All credit to Brad Ausmus. He's handled it ultra professionally. He just said, hey, I'll be the Tigers manager as long as they'll have me. But we all know he's going to be gone at the end of the year. I'm totally shocked. What was your stance when you saw the way that the Tigers organization basically threw Brad Ausmus right under the bus?
At this point, the Tigers have two big black eyes. One, for the way they handled Dave Dombrowski, and now that the way that they're handling the whole Brad Ausmus situation. There is no reason that any of this stuff should be leaked out. None whatsoever. It boggles my mind that people in this organization either have this little respect for the organization, Brad Ausmus, a collective of both, to come out and just, like you said, it's the worst kept secret. We all know, right? It's going to happen. It has to happen. The way things have spiraled out of control this year, it has to happen. But for an organization to come out and basically throw your manager on the fire with, at the time, I believe it was like 35 games left in the season. So now he's out there dying on a vine for the next 35 games. You essentially strip him of all his power in the clubhouse. You strip him of almost his ability to do his job, because now it doesn't become questions about the game. It becomes questions about your future with the ball club, how you're going to react and how you're going to handle this. So the guys in the clubhouse are now having to answer these questions as well. You just spun your whole entire organization into a tailspin. And you sat there and you did this with Dave Dombrowski. The way you guys let Dave Dombrowski go was awful. A guy who, your most winning manager of all time, the guy who sat there and helped you win 5 division titles, the guy who helped you get to the World Series a couple times. I mean, I know you didn't win the big prize, but he did everything he could possibly do to put you in a spot to sit there and succeed. He didn't really bolster that bullpen, and I'll agree with you there. But other than that, the guy did a really good job here. Because you got to remember, at one point, we were the most losing baseball team to almost play in the major leagues. I mean, what was it, 119 losses we lost that one season? And what was the record, 120? So, I mean, we were right there. This guy comes in, and now we're expecting World Series. And you don't get him, but you don't release a guy the way that they did with Dave Dombrowski. And you sure as hell don't do this with Brad Ausmus, especially when you got 30-some games left in your season.
Exactly. And there's nobody present at the press conference when Al Avila is now named your new general manager, the guy that's waited for so long. You don't even show up to kind of talk about it. And the interesting note is, and it leads to several questions, is who's really leading the organization? Are they making Al Avila a yes man? Is the Illich's passing it along to his sons now? Who's really in charge? But
Can I give you some rumor and speculation?
We'll get that in 1 second.
But on my part.
Okay, rumor and speculation. Ooh, I'm interested. But the part I want to know is, why is it that they've taken this stance? Obviously, yes, Brad Ausmus is a terrible manager, but you signed off on it. Your general manager got it done and made him the manager. So you didn't agree. Fine. I would have just waited till the end of the year and you do it as a combo package. Or
that would be the smart thing to do. That's what good organizations do.
Or you're mad, you're frustrated, you didn't feel like Dave Dombrowski handled his business right, and you got so mad that Dave sold it. You broom them out together. There's nothing left to prove. You broom them out together. You don't do this. You don't throw your current manager under the bus, and you don't do it this way. It was a total fail, and it really has kind of spread around Major League Baseball in terms of national writers, and the perception is like, whoa, what are the Tigers doing? And I don't like that.
It makes you look bad, and it makes your next hire that much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Because who wants to work for that?
Tell me, what have you heard?
Okay, well, I've not heard anything.
Oh.
This is all. I have no proof, no evidence, I have nothing. This is, I guess, my conspiracy theory.
Oh, okay.
All right. I believe the person who leaked this, I believe they are extremely close to the situation. So close so that if the old man was to die and they couldn't dust the mothballs off of him, he would then take over. I believe this was released by Chris Illich.
Okay.
I believe he is upset with the way things are going. I don't think he has a real good, trying to phrase this politely, I don't think he has great decorum in these types of situations. When he gets upset about something, I think he kind of
gets emotional and lets his emotions.
Just lets it go, yes.
Takes control of him, yeah.
So I think that he was trying to make a point in I think trying to get Brad Ausmus's attention, and I think he was the one who released this to Bernie. And like we said, everybody knows this is going to happen. It's inevitable.
What the hell is that about?
So yeah, and when you kind of dug into it and people talked about it, Bernie Smilovich doesn't go down to Comerica too often.
Nope.
But when Dave Dombrowski was gone, he was there.
Yep.
So he kind of had the heads up that something was going down. Bernie Smilovich is connected, but the problem was with that story was it was already been talked about. It wasn't news. It wasn't exclusive.
No.
So it wasn't by any means exclusive.
You know what the only difference was? He was able to corroborate that with another source who, I'm guessing, Chris Illich. When it comes from a guy like that, you can totally run with a story. And that's pretty much what that was.
Very fascinating. And now the talks are and it's been kind of talked about and rumored and speculated that Ron Gardenhire would be the next guy. So, yeah, exactly. I don't know. Here, simple from the podcast. Here's the numbers real fast before we break it down. What do you say? 0.507 winning percentage, just barely above 500.
About 500.
Yep, 1,068 wins, 1,039 losses. Started off great his first couple of seasons, 6 AL Central titles with Minnesota in his first 9 years. Look at these win totals his early on since 02. 94, 90, 92, 83, 96. Great stuff. But then what typically happens is when you've been around for so long, I think the message kind of got stale. Some of the players might have tuned him out. He was there for so long. The last 4 seasons, he averaged 96 losses and only won 87, 94, 63, 66, 66 again, and 70. He flamed out in Minnesota. A guy that was a former player, but he was just an average baseball player. When you look at his overall career stats, he was just an average baseball player, but sometimes average baseball players turn out to be good managers. And he was solid with Minnesota. Good in-game manager, a guy that was well respected early on and was solid. But if he comes here, it's not what we need. Not Jim Leyland. He's a guy that's a little bit worse than Jim Leyland, and a guy who's basically a 500 manager, which you got now. You could basically ride out Brad Ausmus for a couple more years and probably get similar results. We need a young, fresh voice with experience, and that's tough to find right now across Major League Baseball because they're getting scooped up. But maybe someone from within the Cubs, the Cardinals, some winning organizations could come in here. But you got to be creative and do an exhaustive search. Ron Gardenhire, come on, man.
Here's the thing, too. Al Avila has built this team or built his front office with a lot of guys who like sabermetrics, and they're sabermetrics guys. Ron Gardenhire is just like you said, just like Jim Leyland. He manages from his gut. He's an old school baseball guy. So it's like mixing oil and water. I don't mind if you're an old school baseball guy, but if you have data in front of you, I feel like you need to look at it and utilize it a little bit. So if you can get a good mix, I think that'd be your logical choice to fill in as the next general manager or the next manager of this team, right? What has Ron Gardenhire ever won? You said 6 AL Central Division titles. Great job. He's never won anything. And I know that he didn't have great teams in Minnesota, but he never did anything. So why are you going to bring him here where you've got massive egos with a guy like Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, apparently, Jose Iglesias, who at certain points during the season, you've seen that bubble up and be troublesome. Why would you bring him in here to sit there and have him control the circus? It doesn't make sense to me. He doesn't seem like a fit. And the way that Al Avila is building his front office, it just seems like it would be trying to take a square block and trying to cram it through a round hole. It's just not going to work.
I think that Al Avila knows that Ron Gardenhire has a sense of the AL Central. He wants a guy that potentially he can, manage and work well with, a guy that's got experience. So they're not going to go the route of going with a younger guy. But I agree. I think in game this year, you kind of saw that Brad Ausmus was overwhelmed in so many different situations. Tactically, it was obvious. And now across baseball, the perception is that you need a guy that can take the information, take the sabermetrics, and not only understand it, but utilize it in game, like when to hit and run, what situations to steal, when to take out your pitcher, at what time. These sabermetric numbers really help these guys in game as well. Personally, I'm more old school, but I am definitely understanding looking at advanced numbers when making a decision. But I don't think a guy like Ron Gardenhire, it would be so overwhelming to just maybe have a young bench coach or the guy that sits next to you and just kind of is in your ear. That's why it's so disappointing that Brad Ausmus has regressed this year. You got a guy next to you in Gene Lamont with all this experience. What is in his ear? What is he telling him? It just seemed like they all collectively got together, put their feet up, and made choices. And none of them really were that effective. So if potentially you get a young bench coach that you maybe could groom, that's a big-time sabermetrics advanced guy that's maybe thinks outside the box.
Isn't that what they should have did with Brad Ausmus?
They should have put him as a bench coach.
Brought him in, had him learn as a bench coach for at least 2 years.
At least.
Sit behind somebody and maybe be that guy who the head coach turns to and says, hey, what do you think we should do with this situation?
Exactly.
And let him give his take. And then if it's good, do it. If it's bad, look at him and be like, you're an idiot. This is what we're going to do because you're dumb. I don't get it. Let's just cover all the bases, though. You said a perspective of the AL Central. There's Ozzie Guillen, who's a human gas can waiting to explode.
Never going to happen.
And I could just see him and Miguel Cabrera going halvesies on a liter of scotch and just actually burning down a building. Or Manny Acta, who, again, is like watching wallpaper dry. So there's really, right now, I don't see a good coach out there. This is going to take some investigation, and I'm hoping Al Avila does an extensive search if and when Brad Ausmus is let go.
The talk is, and I'm kind of surprised when you read the newspapers, you bust open the news and free press, now you're starting to hear some talk of, hey, maybe we shouldn't reboot, maybe we should deconstruct. So Lynn Henning comes out with an article today in the Detroit News, and he's talking like, if possible, if Al Avila can work his magic like a wizard, potentially if you want to contend in 2017, because next year they're not going to contend for a World Series.
They don't have a pitching staff anymore.
They could contend to get to the playoffs, but they're not going to be a World Series team.
But
Lynn Henning
good pitchers that came through here, and now look at what you have. You've got freaking socks and toilet paper. It's horrible.
Potential. You got potential. You got to have a little hope. You got potential in these guys, and hopefully one or two of them can be solid 2 and 3 starters.
Dude, Matt Boyd has not looked good. And he's struggled.
He struggled.
I thought he was going to be really good. Daniel Norris, I think, is going to be very good, but Matt Boyd has struggled, bro.
Imagine going to the ballpark next year and you got Norris, Fulmer, and Boyd, 2, 3, 4 potentially as your starters. Woo! It's good. Yeah, we'll have some beer and cocktails for sure.
I'm uncomfortable right now.
Yeah, very much so. Lynn Henning's talking about, hey, you could get some potential, a lot for trading Justin Verlander and Miguel Cabrera. Super tough in that I don't think it's going to happen. I think Miguel Cabrera is going to finish his career here. I don't see too many organizations paying a 41-year-old Miguel Cabrera $30 million. And I'd like to see him hit all the milestones that he's potentially going to hit here in Detroit. That's why they got him here, and this is a guy that can help you. JV, on the other hand, if you can work some magic, maybe take some of the salary that's owed to him. If someone could take him and maybe get a 4-star prospect, potentially, a guy that can be a 275 hitter, 25 home runs, maybe a diamond in the rough that you've scouted, that maybe you could get and add to this organization, I would look to trade JV. I have no confidence it's ever going to happen. It's just because $28 million. If his salary was in the $15 million range like Anibal Sanchez,
you could
do it all day. Yeah. No one's going to take it.
What about Anibal Sanchez? That guy has no good arms. Like, none. The one that he catches with and the one that he throws with, just rip them both off. He should just be out there. His name should be Bob. Seriously. The guy is hurt all the damn time. And you know what the most frustrating thing about Justin Verlander is, since you're talking about him? He shows flashes of doing everything perfectly, of finally learning to be a pitcher and not a thrower. He goes out there and he'll give you no-hit baseball. He'll almost give you a perfect game, and he looks good and he looks dominant. And then he'll turn around game later and he'll just throw a meatball right over the heart of the plate, and it gets cranked out of the ballpark for a 3-run homer, and the team just goes into a tailspin. And it's just like the most frustrating thing ever, because it really feels like he is approaching that cusp where he's finally healthy and he can do everything so well. And then it just feels like he just goes out there and he's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to resort back to my old habits where I'm going to try to throw it 100 miles down the middle of the plate, and good luck hitting it. Justin, you're only hitting 95.
The ideal now strategy to look at in the offseason is get 1 or 2 starters, improve the bullpen, and really rely on the players that you got in the lineup offensively, because they got talent on offense. And I think it's time to put to bed the notion that Cespedes is going to come back here. Why? He's the king of New York. He's just, wow, bro. That's unbelievable what he's doing out there.
Dude, that team has done a 180 since he's gone there.
And their talks are that they're negotiating now. So they're negotiating with him. He's not coming back here.
No.
So put that to rest. Look to JD to continue to improve. You have to have Miguel. You have to have JD stay healthy. And you got to really kind of retool. I don't think the window is totally shut, but the door is basically on the hinge, ready to be pushed shut. Next year's going to be a tough year because you kind of know going into it, your goal is going to be to get to the playoffs. And you're going to have a lot of young talent, which is going to be new for us to kind of watch, but it's also going to be exciting. Can Daniel Norris be that guy? Can Boyd kind of continue to progress a little bit? Can Fulmer, who's just lighting up the minor leagues, can he come up and do some damage? So we have some potential. We have some positive things to look for next year. But if you just kind of lower your expectations, you won't be as disappointed. But the World Series window for now is not a notion that you should keep seriously, because you'll be disappointed, mightily disappointed.
If you're a church mouse, you might be able to squeak through the crack that is there. One thing you don't want to happen, and I think they're going down this road, they are becoming the Phillies. The Phillies were so good for such a long period of time, won a World Series, and now they're just absolute trash. And
why?
I think the Tigers are headed down that road. You have some pieces that you might be able to trade away. Probably not, though, like you said, with Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander. And I'm not pining for them to trade a guy like Cabrera. I wouldn't be opposed to them trading a guy like Verlander if you can get something really good for him. But like you said, who wants to pay that contract? The thing is, they do have to address a lot of issues this offseason. And no team is ever perfect in baseball. No team is ever perfect, but you do the best with what you got. And they're going to have a lot of work to do this next season. I think you're right. Maybe if they're smart, maybe they can contend in 2017. But now you've got another year on a Cabrera, another year on a Justin Verlander. Hopefully at this point, Daniel Norris figures it out, and he is now your ace. And hopefully Matt Boyd really straightens some things out here, and hopefully Fulmer comes around too. So this is transition. This is what it's like to go from being really, really good and being high up on the pedestal to it basically crashing down and breaking in front of your feet here. This is where we're at.
Stay with us after the break. We're going to get Marques Ogden on the line, and he's going to share with us his tale, his story of recovery, living a new and improved life since his battle with addiction. And he's going to talk about his new book. I believe it's called Sleepless Nights. Stay with us. Marques Ogden next. DetroitSportsPodcast.com. Doc and Jock, episode 110.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out FanaticU.com. Check out FanaticU.com. Use promo code DSP. Save 15% even off the clearance items. And get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wings shirt. Rock your Lions shirt. Rock your Old English D to the Tiger games. Rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out. FanaticU.com.
Welcome back, everybody, on the line. I made an appearance on WLIP AM 1050, and I listened in a little bit early before my appearance, and I heard Marques Ogden tell his story. I was very impressed with his battle with addiction and living his life in a different way after battling addiction. On the line right now, he is the author of the new book coming out October 6th. You can pre-order it on Amazon and all other platforms at the end of the month. The author of Sleepless Nights, the Marques Ogden story. Marques, thank you for joining Doc and Jock on the Detroit Sports Podcast.
Absolutely. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing very well. Tell us a little bit about the inspiration to write the book and your story, because when I was listening, it was so fascinating, the trials and tribulations that you went through, and I was really impressed, and I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Well, here's what happened, guys. When I got out of the NFL, I started a construction company, tried to build a better life for myself, took the money I made from the NFL and my father gave me his home when he passed away, and I started to build a company. Started from the ground up, was in concrete, then got into site work. Things were going phenomenal. I built the company to an 8-figure business, and within a 5-year period, I closed the books out at the end of year 5 at about $12 million, give or take $1 or $2. But the problem was, guys, I built the company on the wrong foundation, wrong people, wrong process, wrong structure, wrong infrastructure. I took on a project for about $4 million from one of the top 3 largest general contractors in the country. They're based out of the northeastern region of the country. And I did the job. I was underfunded. We hit a big snag on the project. I was not able to drive the site through the site work contractor. I wanted to finish what I started. Spent about $2 million of my money in about a 90-day period. Payroll, materials, overtime, sumps, you name it. By the time I was done, I went to the owner in GC for a change order and said, Marques, thank you very much. We are not going to sign this change order. You have to eat this $2 million cost because you're the site work contractor. I said, hey, guys, this is going to put me out of business. And they said, Marques, unfortunately, we just don't have any in our budget to give you any money for this portion of your work. Literally, guys, I ended up losing everything that I owned, my home, my cars, everything in a very short period of time. And I ended up relocating to North Carolina with my wife and my daughter after that.
And then is that what fueled the addiction? Is that how it started?
No, the addiction started when my father passed away. He had just turned 57. My brother and I were raised by him. I was raised by him all my life, just like my brother was, but I was 8 years old when our parents divorced, and he took full custody of my brother and I, and then my brother was 14. When he passed away suddenly of heart complications in the intensive care unit of the hospital, that's when I lost it. I got heavy into alcoholism. I got heavy into gambling. I got heavy into just late night activity, just not doing things that were going to be healthy and productive for me. But at that time, gentlemen, I was not really worrying about life. I was not cherishing every moment, or I wasn't thinking about the next day. I was thinking about the next drink, the next gambling game, the next trip to Atlantic City. I was really in a very, very harsh downward spiral that took effect because my father passed away at a very young age suddenly.
So after rising, going through the NFL, then falling with your business collapsing, and then hitting rock bottom by going through your substance abuse, what was the motivation for you to write this book?
Well, interesting. I would have put it in the right correct order. My dad, when I was in the NFL, that was great. My father passed away near the end of my career, and then when he passed away, I went back and played again. My back locked up, got tight. After that, I ended up coming out, and I then started my construction company, and then I did very, very well. But we talked about it, and then it went from 100 miles per hour down to -10, and I lost everything. What really prompted me to write the story was after my daughter was born, I really truly saw how things could be different. And when I started going through the process, I started to notice things bettering myself. I stopped drinking beer. I stopped eating so much fried food. I literally just started to say, you know what, my dad would not want me to live this way, and I need to be a better example for my daughters, and need to really just get it together. I have an 11-year-old stepdaughter and a 13-month, actually almost 14-month-old actual birth daughter. So when I just really decided, gentlemen, that it was time to get off my butt and stop, feeling sorry for myself, things started to change. And then I ended up getting with the publishing house last November. I actually met them through LinkedIn, which is a great business platform to meet people and meet potential business associations. And after that, as I was going through the process of writing the book, I started to change my life for the better. But my daughters were really my inspiration to getting my life together.
As a reader of this book, what is the effect that you want them to take away from it, from your story?
I want people to not make the same mistakes that I did. If you can avoid a bad business deal, if you can avoid the wrong business partner, if you can avoid sinking all of your money into something that you probably won't get it back. So many people in the country, and I'm talking about just corporate America, regular people that go to job, go to work 9 to 5, very, very many people in our country want to own a business. And I'm trying to show through my story how I did it correctly, but most importantly, how I did it incorrectly. And I want people to not have to go through the struggles and the emotional, physical, and mental turmoil that I went through this process. I mean, think about it, gentlemen. When you lose $2 million in less than 90 days of actual cash out the door, I'm not talking about like stocks you can see go up and down. I'm not talking about, through a land deal. When actual cash money goes out your pocket, from your account, from your personal account to your business account to your employees, and it is drains from $1.5 million to $1 million to $500,000 to $300,000 to $100,000 to when I was finished, gentlemen, I had about $2,100 left to my name when I got through with the process of trying to drive the site for my project. So I'm trying to get people to understand that if you have a bad day, it's okay. We are professional athletes. We are not immortals. We have the same problems and trials and tribulations as anybody in society. We may hide it better because we're big guys, we're gladiators, but in reality, so many guys in the NFL have problems. I mean, we're regular people. We're no different than anybody else. So I'm trying to make people understand this is a relatable story. So if you're a business owner, if you've lost a loved one, if you're having problems with alcoholism, if you're having problems with gambling or addiction, I'm trying to help you understand that I have been there, and these are the ways you can start to kind of just break yourself out of the cycle slowly. But I'm trying to have people not make the same catastrophic mistakes that I made in my life.
And I think probably the best thing for people who are listening to this to realize is you're not just some dumb jock. I mean, you graduated from a prestigious university like Howard. You sat there, you were able to play in the NFL because you were a gifted athlete. And then you were able to go out after that. You recognize that most of these people that you see in the ESPN documentaries like Broke and other athletes sit there and they lose their money before they even get out of the league. And you were trying to set yourself up so that wouldn't happen. So you started your own business and you were very successful. And then the bottom just kind of fell. So these are things that attack everybody. This is real life. This is just what happens.
Correct. And that's exactly what we're talking about, gentlemen, this is real life. I didn't talk about it in the book. I didn't blow my money on cars, women, houses, boats, trips, exotic jewelry. I lost my money in a business transaction on one job. It took me 5 years to build my company from the scratch. And I lost everything that I owned and the kitchen sink in a 90-day period. And again, I'm not a bad guy. I made a bad choice. And I studied finance at Howard University. And I worked at Merrill Lynch, as an intern, during college. I graduated with a 3.8 in my major and a 3.3 overall at Howard University, which is one of the most prestigious black colleges in the country. I did everything I could think to do correctly. But again, everyone, makes a mistake. And my mistake was catastrophic. So I work with the NFL Trust Program and some of these different affiliated companies like Hiller and Heinz, which is an investigative firm out of Chicago, Financial Finesse based out of L.A., trying to bring light to the situation where if you're a person that's trying to go to business with somebody or looking to do a business deal, utilize every resource possible. And I tell the same thing to former NFL players. Utilize what the NFL is giving you to try to better your life. These programs, the trust was not around when I formed my business. The NFL Trust Program is only 2 years old. So the NFL is really trying to do the best it can to help current and former players not make mistakes. But again, no one's perfect. But if I would have had these services, gentlemen, 6-7 years ago when I started my company, possibly and more like, well, probably, I would have not gone under because I would have vetted my partner, would have found out what he was not good at, and probably wouldn't have gone to business with him. It's all about the process of trying to alleviate and minimize catastrophic mistakes.
Marques Ogden, kind enough to give us a few minutes on the Doc and Jock podcast, author of the new book coming out October 6th called Sleepless Nights. You can follow him on Twitter at Marques_Ogden. You got a few minutes to talk a little NFL football with us?
Of course.
Nice. Now, Detroit Lions, unfortunately, had a 21-3 lead, and they squandered it. San Diego made some great adjustments, and a lot of talk around town is, wow, what an offensive collapse for the Lions. Really, the absence of DeAndre Levy and some key injuries to some key parts really affected the Lions. Your thoughts on the Lions and they're really kind of their struggle, their first game?
I got a chance to watch a little bit of the game. I mean, Phillip Rivers, I live in Raleigh, I live in Cary, North Carolina, which is right outside of Raleigh, which is Wolfpack territory. So Phillip Rivers down here is a god. Great quarterback. They did a really good job in the beginning part of the game. Detroit's problem is they just really are lacking. Other than, of course, they don't see the running game right now. It gets sustained in the game for a long period of time. As a former offensive lineman, I was looking at their yards for the running backs. It's very, very important to establish the run in any magnitude because the run is going to set yourself up later when the line is tired in the game. I got a chance to watch Haloti Ngata. I love Haloti. Great football player. You can tell he's slowing down. Stephen Tulloch, I played with Stephen when he was in Tennessee. Great guy. Again, another Wolfpack guy. He's an NC State grad. But Stephen's lost a step or two, which unfortunately for him, because he's not the biggest guy in the world, it's going to be really, really, important to his game. I think the Lions overall have a really good football team. They have the best receiver, in football, in my opinion. I like Des Bryant, but as long as 81 still puts on a blue jersey and goes out there with a lion on his helmet, that's my guy. That's who I want to have, catching the balls for me. But I think overall, Stafford with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, that's the one thing on Detroit is how is Matt Stafford's, consistency or inconsistency, depending upon which one you want to call it, is going to be pivotal to Detroit's success, down into the whole season, in the 2015 season.
Now, Marques, I want to get your opinion on this, being that you're a former player and you've sat through offensive meetings and you get a sense to kind of get a sense how quarterbacks think. The Lions explained away the fact that Calvin only got 4 targets because he was bracketed by a safety the whole game. But when you look at the safeties, no one was taller than the safeties and corners. No one was taller than 5'11". So you would think that Stafford would recognize that, and potentially, even if the game plan dictates that maybe you go underneath or that you maybe look away when he's double covered, would a guy like Matthew Stafford be allowed to maybe break ranks a little bit and just throw the ball up to Calvin, knowing that when you got a 6-inch difference, you got to be able to kind of know that and be able to get him the ball and get him in the game. He's the number one guy.
That's a very good point. First of all, any quarterback that's been around or that is as I call it, your team's franchise quarterback, like Stafford would be for Detroit, Phillip Rivers for San Diego, Marcus Mariota now for Tennessee, they will have the power to make the adjustments. So I'm just wondering if Stafford was seeing something on film that was kind of spooking him from going downfield. I do know in meeting rooms, I've played with several quarterbacks, Mark Brunell, Byron Leftwich. I've played with, Kyle Bowler. I haven't played with anyone who's what I call a franchise quarterback other than probably Byron. But it's really difficult sometimes to make an adjustment, again, if you're seeing something on film that's spooking you as a quarterback. But on top of that, also, you have to have confidence in your offensive line to be able to hold up for those deep routes. And I do like the Detroit's line, but I'm just not sold that they are going to be stellar and pass protecting for any length of time over 3 seconds. So Stafford really probably was having some worrying issues about his protection if he's got to go downfield. So it's a combination of all sorts of things right there, gentlemen. It's going to be, what you're seeing on film, and then do you really trust your offensive line to hold past 3-4 seconds to make those downfield throws with any type of real accuracy or power?
Marques, I want your take on Roger Goodell and the job he's doing as the NFL commissioner.
I met Roger Goodell back in 2007, 2008 when I was with Tennessee. He came and spoke to us. It was like his second year in the league. Goodell has a really hard job. I think he is too, shall we say, commercialized. I think he's so, the man makes $30 million a year. Like, really? Like $30 million a year is his salary, which is absolutely unbelievable. But to go back to your point, Goodell is a good commissioner. I just don't think he is he's not a player's commissioner. He, when something goes wrong on, let's say the owners have an issue or stuff like that, he's very, very quick to react without really thinking about both sides of the spectrum, whereas Paul Tagliabue did a really good job of that. And he had to follow a very, very good commissioner. But in my opinion, Goodell has done a decent job with, satisfying the owners, which is important, but at the same time, he's not doing the best jobs, in my opinion, of satisfying the players' concerns, which is going to be really, owners do own the team, but, without the players playing the game, nobody's going to watch Jerry Jones, go out there and play on the gridiron. So, you have to really do a good job of keeping the players feeling that you're doing a good job fighting for them as well.
So in recent months, he's had huge profile cases that have been overturned and basically blown up in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's grounds for the owners to sit there and try to oust him? And do you think this is more effective? He just doesn't have a very good legal team consulting with him?
Yeah, there are certainly grounds, for him, for people wanting him out of that chair. I don't know if they're going to be able to get that done or not. The man does have a lot of power, but again, like you're saying, there are 32 owners against one commissioner. So, and the owners do have more than enough money and enough resources to make that happen if they choose to do that. So are there grounds for it? Absolutely. Sure, there are grounds, for him being dismissed. But will the owners pursue that, fully? That's a question I'm going to answer after the season, because the whole Deflategate and then now this whole thing with the Patriots, the Patriots are becoming his worst enemy. Honestly, the way he went after Tom Brady, he didn't win anybody over there. And then the way he handled the situation with, the Ray Rice incident, so he has not done a great job as of late handling, big issues that are becoming negative publicity enigmas for the NFL. So, he needs to really do a better job of trying to simmer down all the excitement versus trying to really get caught up in all the limelight. Again, that's what I was talking about earlier. He's a very sensationalized and media figured commissioner.
NFL Sunday comes around. Who's your team? Who's your team that you ride or die with and support fully when you're watching football?
I'm a Ravens fan. I played for the Ravens for 2 years. My brother played there. I was very good friend. I'm still very good friends with Sugg. I was very disappointed to watch him go down with his Achilles injury. The problem the Ravens have right now, and that's a problem with a lot of teams right now, is how good is your offensive line going to play? And when they took down the hits from to 16 hits in a season you're allowed total, the one position that got killed by that move was the offensive lineman. If you are not allowed to hit and get into sync in training camp and get the pads, get the rust off and get the timing down, you're going to have a very difficult time when it comes time for preseason and even the regular season, especially to get your job done. So the Ravens right now are suffering tremendously right now from a lack of offensive line play.
Marques Ogden, kind enough to give us a few minutes. You can follow him on Twitter at Marques_Ogden. We'll get you out of here on this. A lot of talk has been after the first game. Peyton Manning kind of ball has been kind of through a lot of ducks. His, as he's gotten older, he's been a little bit ineffective in terms of his velocity on his ball. Now he's been a very cagey veteran and was able to sustain success because he got the ball out and made such great decisions. But you're starting to think this is the end for Peyton Manning?
Yeah, unfortunately, every great quarterback comes to an era end. Unfortunately, people like Brett Favre came back when it was way past their prime. Guys like, Steve Young made a very nice exit along with guys. And Montana came back a little bit beyond his time, but not too bad. I like guys like Bradshaw, things of that nature. Peyton Manning actually sat on my NFL panel when I was drafted back in 2003. I got a chance to meet him face to face. We're about the same height, same height. I'm 6'6", he's 6'6", and he might be a quarter inch taller. I've had respect for him ever since I met him in 03, personally. He is one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. He's a tremendous student of the game. He is exactly what the NFL needs right now for positive publicity. All of his nationwide insurance commercials, Papa John's. He, in my mind, is the poster child what the NFL needs right now, especially in this very harsh arena of NFL getting negative publicity. But to do himself a service and a proper justice, he needs to retire this year. When I watched him against the Ravens, and the Ravens do not have a stellar defense when it comes to corners. I like Jimmy Smith, but other than that, they are subpar. Their strength was in their front seven, along with Suggs, and then of course Joe Flacco and Steve Smith is their big strengths. When Peyton Manning did not do what he used to do 5, 6, even 2 or 3 years ago against the Ravens defense, I knew that after this season, he needs to go ahead and let it go.
Thank you so much for your time. Everybody who listens, check out Marques Ogden's book, Sleepless Nights, The Story of Marques Ogden. It'll be available for pre-order at the end of September, and you can officially get the book October 6th. Look for him. Hopefully we can chat again.
I'm sorry, and our tagline, so mention our tagline, guys, so fans can know what it's like. It's a little bit about. Our tagline is the NFL is a business, but also a family. That's the tagline of the book.
That's great. Thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for coming on Doc and Jock. I look forward to chatting again. We're big NFL guys here. We love the Lions. We love football. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to you again.
Sounds great. I look forward to it, guys.
Take it easy.
That was Marques Ogden. What a fascinating story. Yeah, because I just invited myself to do the interview on WLIP AM 1050. I've done the show before. So I listened in, and he was talking beforehand. He was the guest before me. And when I heard it, I was like, wow, what a fascinating story. And I reached out to him, and now he came on the podcast, broke down a little bit of Stafford. So, potentially Stafford might not have been as comfortable with throwing to Calvin Johnson. We'll talk more about that and what happened with the Lions and recap it and give our opinions about the Detroit Lions Game 1 loss to San Diego and their upcoming matchup versus Minnesota. Stay with us. After the break, Detroit Lions postmortem. Doc and Jock, episode 110, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. I want to tell everyone out there about DetroitSportsNation.com. They're a great website, and they've been very supportive to all the shows on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. They host all the podcasts. They have great writers that cover all the Detroit teams, all the college teams. Check out their website and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. The collaboration has been excellent, and it's helped us to continue to grow and have great guests take phone calls. So our collaboration with the Detroit Sports Nation has really been successful, and support those who support us. DetroitSportsNation.com. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to everybody who's been downloading the podcast across multiple platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Podomatic, DetroitSportsNation.com, FeedBurner. Anywhere you can find podcasts in big, huge numbers, you'll find the Detroit Sports Podcast. Whew, got to come down a little bit. I got excited, bro, talking about NFL football with Marques Ogden. So he was cool. He actually kind of gave us a little bit of insight from a former player, what it's like a little bit maybe in the film room, and what potentially Stafford could have been looking at in terms of why he didn't target Calvin Johnson. He was a fascinating cat. And but we got to talk about our Lions. Man, up 21-3, cuz how did we lose the game? How did it come about that we had a big lead? we didn't come away with the victory.
Better questions. Where was Kelvin Johnson? Come on, 2 receptions? Seriously? Where was Haloti Ngata? He had all of 3 tackles, and he was moved around like he was a turnstile. What was going on with the back 7? They got chopped up, dude. They looked like you were at Benihana's and you were on that grill and you were that piece of shrimp that was getting all chopped and diced up and flipped up in a hat, bro.
Well, Marcus said it, and we observed it. Stephen Tulloch, James Ahedebo, Rasheed Mathis are all 30 and older. And when you have a defense that's a little bit older and you lose a step, it was simple. They went in, San Diego went in at halftime, and we're like, oh, we know what to do. Boom, boom, boom.
Just crossing patterns all day long.
Simple.
That was it. It was insane. And that run defense, as good as it was last year, it doesn't look like it can hold a torch this year. And you brought a guy like Haloti Ngata in to basically be a run stuffer. I mean, he's supposed to disrupt and get to the quarterback, but he excels at being a run stuffer. They ran all over that Lions defense. That first half and that second half. It was insane. Where were the coaches to make adjustments? I mean, obviously San Diego got the memo. I mean, they went in at halftime, down 11, came back out, and just ran up 30 points real quick. And where was Detroit? What was Caldwell doing?
You were outcoached, right?
What was Lombardi doing? What was Austin doing? I mean, come on. Simple things, right? They're going to run crossing patterns. Get up to the line, bump coverage, right? Disrupt the route before it takes place. That's what you have to do. Have your linebackers sit there and play a zone. Play a zone. Read zone coverage. You see a guy coming across the middle, you step in front of the pass. That's what you got to do. I mean, they were sitting there getting picked apart. They got getting out coached is an understatement. A complete understatement.
Now, what can't happen is you can't have a total collapse. Now, if potentially Stafford slips up or potentially a running back runs the wrong route or doesn't do good in pass coverage or a wide receiver doesn't, get open, collectively as an offense, you can't have the entire unit stall like that. You only have one drive of 4 or more plays in the first 3 quarters, one sustainable drive with that offense, an offense that you've invested in heavily, and even news today came out. They're working out even more tight ends. They're trying to figure this out.
How many tight ends do we need?
I don't get it. I thought, in all honesty, there are some positives and takeaways. Ebron responded nicely to his drop that pissed off everybody on Twitter. He came back and caught a touchdown pass. He did good. But in the end, the entire offense collapsed. And the second half, you get one meaningless touchdown. You get outscored 30-0. It was devastating. It was such a shocking turn of events that it was a new situation that we hadn't seen before. The Lions played very well in the first half. That first drive,
they look great.
Let's talk about the positives first before we get into it. The first drive was amazing.
48 points. I thought they were going to run the score up, put 48 on them, just hang it. Just here you go, 48. Eat it. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
The first drive and capped off by the first carry of Amir Abdullah. It was storybook. He undressed the San Diego defender. Was it Weddle, I believe?
Yep.
He undressed him. Boom, little shimmy shake into the end zone. Everyone was cheering. You got tweets galore. You had everyone just like erupted in excitement because of what Abdullah did. And then the rest of the game, you don't pound the rock with him? What, he had less than 10 carries. 7 carries I think he had?
Yep, 7.
7. Okay, guys, it's quite simple. If you have an asset, use it. He's young. He's got the next 7 years before he's 28 years old. You got to pound this guy 18 to 20 times. Why? And Marcus said it. Everyone that knows football knows it. You have to establish the run. Abdullah should be the guy that gets more. And when you go away from that, you're going to have problems. So then you get a defensive touchdown. We talked about it. The Lions need to have those special plays, those extra possessions, and you got 7 points off a turnover. Amazing. You get out to a 21-3 lead. What happens? You go into halftime.
Dude, and at halftime, it could have been worse.
It could be much worse.
Darius Slay had that interception with like 3 seconds left. That could have been a touchdown, and then you're looking at 21-17, and it's a totally different ball game. They were out-coached from that second quarter on. They erupted. They came out of the gate, and they blew up like gangbusters, and then after that, they just sat back. And I'm not saying that they sat back from a play-calling perspective. It's just the way that they coached, they weren't as aggressive, and they didn't go after it, and they didn't get after it. You've got a special talent like Kelvin Johnson, and you've got an incredible wide receiver like Golden Tate. The guy never drops a ball, right? And you sit there and you go away from him. And then you get the excuse that he was bracketed. Everybody in the league brackets Calvin Johnson every single game, and it wasn't a true bracket. What it was you had Brandon Browner playing at different depths off of Calvin Johnson, and then you had Eric Weddle shading to that side of the ball. There were giant holes where Calvin Johnson was blowing by Browner where Matt Stafford needs to throw the ball. He has to just put it in an area and let Calvin go get it. All he had to do was just bombs away and drop it between the two because they were massive, massive holes. When you sit there and you go back and you watch the tape, there were these gigantic areas where if you just sit there and you basically play 500 and you say, hey, I'm going to throw it to that dot, let Calvin run up underneath it and grab it, he'll either get brought down right there or he's going to take off and score. They didn't even bother going to him. They're like, oh, he's bracketed. We can't go there. You've got Golden Tate who's running across the middle, wide open, not hitting him. It just didn't establish the run. You have a special. Amir Abdullah is special. He is special. And I know I came on this podcast and I ranted and I raved and I said that I don't want him. I don't think he's good enough. I'm going to eat my words. The guy is special. He's an incredible talent. You have him. Use him. Run the ball with him. Do things to get the ball in his hands, especially if you're going to go underneath the assumption that Calvin Johnson's bracketed and you can't throw it to him because apparently he's shut down. You've got guys that you need to use. Just the utilization of players was poor. Amir Abdullah not getting enough touches. Joy Bell not seeing the field for large portions of the game, then you throw him in there. Theo Riddick didn't really see the game until the very last drive where he scored a touchdown. What is that? I mean, I know he's your third down back, but he plays a key role. Put him in there. Do some misdirection. Do some odd coverages for the defense. Do something. Anything. Run a 2 tight end set. Put Eric Ebron out wider. Do something. They did nothing. And that defense looks porous. This is what we were supposed to hang our hat on was our defense. Yes, we know that Ndamukong Suh's not there, and we know that he went to Miami. But you brought a guy like Haloti Ngata in to sit there and fill that gap and to be your run stuffer. Melvin Gordon was running the ball all over the place. Danny Woodhead, I take shits bigger than Danny Woodhead, was running all over the place.
Now,
all over this defense.
Can we do a little bit of excuse making? Minus starters, DeAndre Levy, Larry Warford, Adrian Waddle.
No.
You're without no excuses?
No. It's the NFL. Next man up. That's what they tell you, right? I'm going by what they tell me. They tell me next man up. So no, you can't make excuses.
That's the NFL. This is the Detroit Lions. You think you're confident in the fact that General Manager Martin Mayhew is actually going to add real depth to this team?
This was supposed to be the deepest Detroit Lions team we've ever had.
Supposed, quote, air quotes. Come on now. Now, those guys were absent. That's a big loss. DeAndre Levy is the guy.
And I agree.
He basically was able to stop screens, and that's why the defense was so highly ranked. He was able to disrupt a lot of plays.
He was supposed to be our special player on the defensive side of the ball, and I agree with you. And him not being in there totally hurts. But him not being there shouldn't hurt to the tune of 30 unanswered points.
Okay. Now, to talk about the offense in Stafford, it's very interesting to look at and to break down. With Stafford, the talk is that he is following orders and that if it's known that Calvin's double covered, that he's not supposed to go there, which is really fascinating because then it goes to the fact that Joe Lombardi and Jim Caldwell collectively, their scheme is garbage. Because when you look at it, you don't think that it's possible that Calvin Johnson has a 6-inch reach advantage. You can throw into double coverage safely if your quarterback can effectively execute it. I mean, if you throw the ball 3 inches higher in the right spot, it's almost physically impossible for the corner and safety to get it. Calvin is a mismatch nightmare. And it's really fascinating that the Lions made excuses for not getting Calvin the ball more than 4 times. They literally tried to explain it away that, well, he was double covered. Stafford is being handcuffed by the offense and by Caldwell, and even being handcuffed, he had 2 interceptions. Even being handcuffed. So right now,
the one wasn't his fault.
No,
but I see what you're saying. You make your point. I get you.
Yeah. So
I get you.
So the question is, why isn't Stafford willing to kind of maybe be a little bit more aggressive himself? Is he scared that he potentially is going to turn the ball over even more? Has he been frazzled now by the coaching?
Neutered. He's neutered.
We neutered our quarterback. Why?
That's what it is. I mean, you had a guy who drew comparisons to Brett Favre, right? The gunslinger, the guy who was willing to go out there and just make plays happen, make things out of nothing. And now...
Yeah, now it's ass backwards because now last year you could have really let it rip. He could have had more interceptions because you had a defense that could maybe protect you. But because of the way the offense played, bro, the defense looked gassed, and that was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
The defense
they
looked
were
gassed.
tired as 105 degrees.
They look at, and the fact is the offense couldn't sustain any drives. So basically, you saw the defense, and they got exposed. So the Lions in game one really just collapsed all across the board. But with Stafford, the question really is, are you confident that he's going to rebound from this game, knowing that maybe he says he's okay, he got crunched that one play, scared everybody a little bit, he got rocked, now he's wearing a sleeve, he says he's okay, but do you feel like the scheme and Joe Lombardi's ability to kind of scheme now versus a defense is effective? I don't think so. I don't think at all. You got to take more deep threats. You got to have more. I mean, literally, if it was just me, maybe, in my amateur eye, but did it look like to you in the second half, they basically opened up with a bunch of screens?
Yeah, that's
what I saw.
That was what they ran.
I was shocked.
We went from having Brett Favre-esque Matt Stafford to now having Trent Dilfer-esque Matt Stafford, and that's what they ran. They ran nothing but screens all day long, and they got blown up. That offensive line couldn't adjust to what San Diego had come out and ran. They sat there, and they couldn't make the adjustments on the fly, nor could they block well enough. And every play that they ran got snuffed out, and that's on coaching. I'm not putting this on the players. I don't think Matt Stafford helped himself at all, right? I really don't. And I think what we're getting at is he is neutered, right? This offense that Joe Lombardi is running and that Jim Caldwell wants, it's to force him to sit there and take care of the football and not turn it over and make the smart play. Even if you can go downfield and you have a genetic freak like Calvin Johnson who is healthy for the first time in his career in probably 3 years, can go up and make plays. You and I both seen him make plays when he was triple and quadruple coveraged. You're trying to throw this between two guys, and those guys are 15 yards apart. That's a ton of space. Calvin can make that play. Get him the ball. He's been neutered. And the offensive line didn't adjust and didn't make the plays that they needed. That's why he was getting beat up. He was only sacked once, but he was picking himself off the ground a lot more than that one time would indicate. He was hit repeatedly. It was ridiculous. Let me ask you this. How many guys line up on the defensive side of the ball?
11.
How many guys line up on the offensive side of the ball?
11.
All right, so you double cover Calvin Johnson. All right, so now Calvin Johnson's double covered. There's what? One guy should be free, essentially, right? You need to be able to take advantage and make a play. I don't care if Matt Stafford rolls out of the pocket and picks up 4 yards at a clip. You're moving the ball.
You would think that's where you go to Ebron or to Golden Tate and find someone else, right?
Anybody. Run a quick slant and just dump the ball off the. You know what? Watching the Monday night game, all right, there was a run play that was called. Matt Ryan goes up, and he realized that the cornerback is playing off just enough that if Julio Jones could just do a quick inside slant, they're going to pick up some yards. He looks at Julio looks at him, they blink twice at each other, and hey, next thing you know, the ball's 7 yards down the field.
So you're saying that Stafford and Calvin don't have that magic blink?
No, I'm not.
I don't see it. No, I don't see it either.
I'm not saying that.
I'm starting to think potentially, because the guys at the Motor City Sports Rant call me a robot. Starting to think that they've made Stafford into a robot. Like he can't. He's not flexible to change the play. I think potentially right now he's a robot. They made him a robot.
That's it. He has to double check everything he does with that coaching staff.
Better get that out of his system real fast.
You can't do that. Not when your quarterback goes in. You need to send your quarterback in there with 3 different plays. You sit there, you line up in one formation, you check at the line, and if everything looks right, you run that play. If it doesn't, you audible. If that doesn't work, you audible again. And you gotta take what the defense gives you. And I don't want to hear this BS excuse that Calvin's bracketed. Calvin's always bracketed. It's been shown that that's the one defense that Matt Stafford is scared to throw to. And it wasn't even a true definition of a bracketed defense, because Eric Weddle only sat there and he wasn't right over the top. He shaded that way. There was, seriously, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up some stills for you, and I'm gonna show you some stills. And there is gaps, like huge holes where Calvin's just running through. It looks like he was in the park. It looked like The Sound of Music. He's just running through the field.
Yeah, it was not good.
Throw me the damn ball.
It was not good, because the good thing is, though, some of our injured players are coming back. I think that they're going to learn from this mistake.
Your boy Kyle Van Noy, is he coming back?
I do believe there's a little bit of hope that we can look to, and that I do believe that this team can learn from their mistakes, and they did play a good half. It takes time. The first game, you kind of put it out there and see what happens. I do believe that going into Minnesota, this team's going to play a lot better, and they're not going to play, one half of football. I do believe in Caldwell's era with the Lions, he has made adjustments, and we've done well coming after losses. So I give him credit.
Real good in-game adjustments.
So yeah, the big themes are definitely Matthew Stafford has to be more of a gunslinger, take a little bit more chances. The offense has to play a little bit better. Get more runs in there. Use Abdullah. Use your weapons. So Joe Lombardi is going to be a focal point. He's going to be in the crosshairs this week for sure in terms of the offense. And now the defense kind of has to be looked at, and hopefully this is just an aberration, a game that you look at and go, well, it's just a game. It's not. It's an exception, not the rule. And you're gonna have a big test. AP is gonna be hell bent on showing that he's not a bum after that 30-yard performance. Ooh. First pick in a lot of drafts, only got 30 yards. Imagine if you need like 6 yards in fantasy and you're like, oh I got this.
Boy.
30 yards? San Francisco's got his number. So they better learn from that film and do the same thing, because a lot of people are thinking he's going to break off an 80-yard run that first drive. And I'm one of them.
That's what he does against the Lions.
I'm looking at it too. I'm like, oh, shit.
This is why Sunday, they have to. Whatever you have to do, you've got to bottle up Adrian Peterson, and you got to put Teddy Bridgewater underneath pressure and distress. You've seen it in the San Francisco game. If you got to Teddy Bridgewater, he got happy feet. He just kind of winged the ball to the sidelines. So you got to put pressure on these two guys. I mean, those are their two big guys that they have on that offense, and that's what they have to do. They got to force turnovers, and they got to capitalize on them, and you can't give up 500 yards of freaking offense. Do you believe that? They give up 500 yards, almost 500 yards of offense to San Diego. You can't go around giving up that much. I think they maybe gave up that combined for 2 or 3 games last year.
I got a question. Did we become objective Lions fans? Like, when I tweeted that, did you go, yeah, you're probably right, that you knew at 21-3 your ass was not comfortable? I knew it.
Oh, no.
You knew it, right?
No, I wasn't. No.
You knew it.
I was expecting the comeback.
Yeah,
You
something.
had to, right?
Yeah, something was going to come up. Something was going to happen that you knew, whether it be an interception or I thought it might be like a punt return or some nonsense or some weird penalty that was going to come up. But it's game one. I'm not going to overreact. I did see some things I didn't like, but going forward, I'm confident that they're going to learn from their mistakes and they're going to be able to correct them and get to the point where they're going to play at their peak. I do believe it. I'm potentially, I'm going to save it for the picks, but I'm feeling good, knowing that they got up to 21-3 lead and it just something, the adjustments weren't made, and knowing that they won't make the same mistake twice. Now, time for the NFL picks. Let me fill you in, guys. We did okay. I mean, I did okay.
We did not do okay.
Well, we made what? We made 4 picks. In the first round, I got 2 correct. The Jock got 1. So I'm up 2-1 in what we call the NFL Pick'em Challenge. All right, cuz, you have the honors. You've scanned the landscape. You've sent me the spreads. Go for it. Who's your first pick?
With my first pick of this weekend's Pick'em, I'm going to take the New England Patriots -2 at Buffalo. The Fighting Toms, they've got a chip on their shoulder. They're ready to show the world that Deflategate was just something that Roger Goodell cooked up to sit there and try to punish the freaking New England Pats for no good reason, because Roger Goodell's a boner. Nobody destroys Rex Ryan better than Bill Belichick. Did you know this?
No,
Did you know this? So being -2 going into Buffalo, watch for the New England Patriots to sit there and run up the score and rub it in. And Rex Ryan's already been running his big old mouth, just blabbering.
I was browsing USA Today football news. It was announced. Damn, they didn't even wait. Houston said, forget it. Brian Hoyer, sit the bench. You ain't worth it. We sucked. They didn't even wait 2 weeks.
Real quick, bro. It was like 2 quarters.
Did you catch any of the episodes of
I didn't. No, I don't.
There's only really one worthwhile scene. Ryan Mallett slept through a practice, and he comes in, and he's like, and I'm trying to do it to talk about on the podcast. He comes in, and he's like, I'm sorry. It's been weird around here. I know I'm sorry I slept. And he's like, oh, I feel better. I'm like, oh, I got it off my chest that, yeah, it'll never happen again. But he's like, yeah, I just kind of, all my phones went out. And he basically was trying to tell his boss, GM Rick Smith, why he slept. And he was just kind of like getting all animated, going like, oh, I feel so much better. It's been weird walking around here. Ryan Mallett looked like a clown. So if you ever get a chance to see it, that's the one episode that was funny, is that he looked like a clown trying to explain himself why he slept. And it was right after it was announced that Brian Hoyer was named the starter. So everyone kind of thought he was kind of doing some diva-ish type nonsense. But now he's the starter. So with that, I am fully confident that Carolina is going to whoop Texans' ass. -3, no doubt about it. Look, I'll put almost that if we could do locks. My lock is going to be Carolina to whoop on the Houston Texans. -3.
All right. Well, with my second pick, I am taking the Chicago Bears +2.5, hosting the Arizona Cardinals. The Bears can't drop back-to-back home games, can they? It's not possible, right? I mean, the Fighting Jay Cutlers, they got to do something, right? Him and his insulin pump, they got to figure it out. So I'm going to take the points, and I'm going to look for some Chicago Bear pride here. I'm going to go with the Bears plus 2.5 over the Cards.
Now, once you saw what Tom Brady was able to do, dude's got a chip on his shoulder, the size, you can't even describe it. Dude's
It's like Manhattan sitting on his shoulder, bro.
Man, if you could only imagine what it'd be like to have Tom Brady and Gronkowski on your fantasy team, look out. But they're going on the road to Buffalo. But with my second pick, you have to trust in Belichick. Simple as that. Till he burns me, I'm going with the New England Patriots -2.
All right, with my third pick, I'm kind of sitting here mourning the loss of Dez Bryant, but the Dallas Cowboys are getting 5.5 points at Philly. So what do? Do I mourn the loss? Do I take the points? I'm not sure. But I don't like what I see with the Eagles. I don't think they have a clue on how to use DeMarco Murray. I think the O-line's weak. I think Sam Bradford gets hit a lot. You know that's not good for him because he's fragile Sammy. And Tony Romo's been Captain Clutch, right? So give me the boys and the points. Chicago plus 5.5.
I think the easiest pick, I liked what I saw with San Francisco on that Monday night game. Wow, the new coach put in a solid system. They looked organized. They had a strong defensive presence. Colin Kaepernick didn't look like a bum. And Carlos Hyde, you had him, went off. Unbelievable. He's
Jail sexed you.
number one. Well, you got the number one running back in fantasy football. All kudos to you. But San Francisco is going on the road to Pittsburgh. They're getting 6 points, so I'm going to take it. I'm taking San Francisco +6, and actually to win the game versus the Steelers.
All right. So we covered everything wrong that the Lions did. Touched on a few things that they did right. Looking at that Minnesota game and what San Francisco did, I don't think AP's ready. I don't think he's ready for NFL games. He had a year off. They didn't play him during the preseason. I don't think his legs are there. I don't think he's in condition yet. They're running a read option, or they're using the shotgun formation with a power eye back. It doesn't work, or at least it didn't work on Monday, right? So now you add in a short week. You got Teddy B, who's not looking as special as somebody on this podcast, myself, thought and hoped he would be. The Lions got to have pride, right? They got to have some goddamn pride. They got to go. You got to take the points with the Lions, +3, going to Minnesota, and they're going to have to pile drive the Vikes, right?
You better
Right?
believe it.
It's got to be the Lions.
Got to be the Lions.
Lions, baby. Lions, +3.
I don't have to say much more. I'm an optimistic Lions fan. I'm trying to be realistic. I'm not as slappy as I used to be. I've kind of transitioned. You know, I didn't tweet out that Abdullah was going to be the next Barry Sanders, but I was very impressed. I do believe they're going to adjust well. I don't know, potentially, if they're going to win the game. You know, I can't sit here and be fully confident. I know it's going to be a tight game. Usually Minnesota and Detroit play decent games, and it's going to be competitive. I do believe, though, that the Lions are able defensively to kind of manage Teddy Bridgewater, and they're going to try to force Adrian Peterson to do as much damage as possible. If they can limit him, I don't see too many other weapons that I'm scared of on Minnesota's team. I like the Lions getting 3 points all day, and I'm hoping. If the Lions start 0-2, look out, because I think there's a slow groundswell of a lot of angry fans that are going to be jumping off the bandwagon for this season real quick if they start off 0-2 coming home against Denver. Ooh.
Dude, if they start off 0-2, I think 0-6 looks real realistic, man.
Whew.
It's going to be a bad season if they drop this one. They need to win this one. They have to win this one.
Sunday, 1 o'clock, can't come here fast enough. I loved it. I love NFL football is back. I love college football. I love the fact where we are right now with the podcast, where we got some people that love football that can break it down with us, and we can kind of look at things. It's good stuff. Good timing. Great podcast. Cuz, thank you so much for sitting through another episode of the Doc and Jock podcast, episode 110. Great stuff.
Check for questionable tweets on Saturday at the Michigan game, and go Lions and go Wolverines.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I have voices in my head, they counsel me, they understand, they talk to me.